Tropic adventures now await us in the next edition of Fave Pokey, as we delve into the Etna and Hawaii-styled areas of Hoenn.
Just Etna? No other volcanoes?
Gotta bump up the script somehow. I remember at this point in my life, I marched right into Argos and eventually here to Delight when...
Order number specifically related to KB at your collection point, please.
Descended from the retail heavens, and there it was. The Game Boy Advance SP that would still satisfy me to this very day. No more past Game Boys, this was the one. Third generation was the first time where the series separated itself from any past regions, and it had many new perks to accompany itself, such as abilities, natures, and double battles to amp up the playstyle of engagers, and was definitely the most engrossing time for me as a kid when it came to training and raising Pokemon, with Fire Red and Leaf Green also coming out in order to reminisce on the history of the franchise, and introducing wireless links to make it easier to trade and battle with friends. The music backed it up heavily, as well as the trumpets being highly prominent. Love them or hate them, I personally loved them. They were something that made the sounds more realistic and epic, to say the least, about marching bands not being able to lock their knees for your enjoyment. Well, you shouldn't lock them anyways. So that may be the longest introduction we've had so far, but will it be the longest countdown so far? Well, I want to keep it as concise as possible, but if I have any nostalgia trance, then please don't snap me out of it. Let's go! Pimp! I'll be honest with this one, I do look around places and see what favorites other people have in order to validate my list. I mean, find differences in opinion cool. But never do I really see Vigoroth in any of those lists. Vigoroth seems more like the prodigal son of the group, with it not being affected by Truant, which lets a Pokemon only move every other turn, but the ability itself is justified because of Slacking's overwhelming stats. I'm not saying that Vigoroth is better than Slacking, technically, I'm just saying that with its brighter design and vital spirit... no pun intended. Certainly does stand out quite a bit. And thanks to the Eeveelutions being introduced in Generation 5, Vigoroth can widely benefit from being an unevolved Pokemon, bringing its base stat total up to 507.5, or 508 if you want to be less specific. Then harboring a bulk up strategy with Taunt, Slack Off, and Return. And a careful nature is good to slightly bump up its special defense that won't have any personal changes to it. Yeah, looking at his Pokedex entries, Vigoroth is kind of a hothead and would be a bit of a nuisance to have on your team. So you'd be mad to think that a Tranquilizer would work on it. So make sure you have a big space for it to tear apart. There's not much to its origin except that it's supposedly based off of the ground sloth, which is extinct now, and that's probably why Vigoroth gets a cool reimagining from its origin. I mean, Sid was more greyish than white.
Hey!
Petwar! After letting himself go in Generation 1, he's decided to return a lot more jacked up than before, and wearing specialized American football armor as opposed to just playing rugby. Aggron, he just has that business face, but not the corporate kind because he doesn't play by anyone's rules. You might have been surprised that a tiny Aeron would grow up to be the Iron Giant, to which it was always a case of having this bugger on my team because I hardly ever got tired of using him as he was also in a very convenient place. The Mega Evolution takes all of this and amplifies it to even playing as a rival to Mega Tyranitar for exclusive access, which I'd say is fairly prestigious. But nothing expected is said by a cocky person like myself. This Pokemon is pretty much a defensive expert, setting up a Stealth Rock maneuver for all other counterers and having Sturdy handy for another round in the game. And its Heavy Metal ability makes it great for using Heavy Slam, while it also uses moves such as Earthquake, Avalanche, Rock Slide, and even Fire Punch. This is why its Mega Evolution is heavily favored across the nations. Its defense just makes it next to unstoppable with its ability filter, which reduces the damage of super effective moves by a quarter, and now being a mono steel type. But even when it's just being a rock and steel type, it's still kind of equipped to deal with weaknesses that mainly target its defense instead of its special defense. So we've noticed that it can act like a bit of a king, but you may be surprised to know that it claims an entire mountain as its territory. Compare that to my cats claiming me. And that comes with the aggressiveness of the job. Then it can have horns which grow to represent his age, as well as wear and tear from battle. So yeah, my number 4 Pokemon can get battle scars, how nice. It appears to be based off the Pulgasari, which is a monster from Korean legend that can hopefully save everyone from horrors that they face today. Or if not based on that, then you can always refer to a Triceratops or some other theropod, which I gotta be honest is just plain boring and doesn't get us involved in any political affairs, so I'll stick with the first option. 3! So while people may have been disappointed that the waterfall wonder Gyarados didn't appear in my Gen 1 list, you might be enlightened to hear that his friend with benefits, Milotic, is here. Yeah, you can blame my derpiest Pokemon list for that. For me, it's this insanely majestic and beautiful look that this marvelous mermaid bestows upon us, despite not having any legs on land, but okay, whatever. The sense of originality in the actual design is what many Pokemon in the Hoenn region have at their advantage. Especially this Pokemon with the different concepts of evolution, which are to either max out its beauty with Pokeblocks and then level it up by 1, or trade with a Prism scale attached. Boring. But being one of the largest Pokemon ever at 20'4" makes it an intimidating foe also. In battle, Milotic acts as a stocky tank, with the special attack working to his advantage as well. Assault Vest galore. Scald can easily immobilize the opponent with a burn effect, while Ice Beam can take care of its weakness to grass. Then you have Mirror Coat and Recover to make sure its craftiness never runs out. But while Milotic can pack kind of a wallop, it would rather settle disputes with good feelings, possibly releasing endorphins and promoting the concentration of serotonin in our nervous system. Although if that's the case, why wasn't it there when Natalia Kills was saying all of that nasty stuff?
You're a laughingstock. It's cheesy. It's disgusting.
Cleopatra?
Bitch, he owned you! Shut your ass down! And apparently its scales are described to be rainbow colors? I mean, yeah, red and blue are both colors, but there kinda needs to be more. I mean, they'd be more accurate to primary colors. Okay, none of its origin states as being close to described as a mermaid, okay. It's more like either a siren, who were femme fatales in Greek mythology, which would lure sailors to old shipwrecks, or the Loch Ness monster, quite like Lapras, or a sea serpent. That as well as sharing the same pattern as an oarfish. You can even look at its name origin. It seems that there's no end to this creativity. Bravo, Game Freak. Die! Until you see that this thing has a mouth, Sableye would make you think, is this some kind of mute? Benny, make him say something. But this little shadow demon thing looks like the sneakiest rodent squirrel without a tail, but with gems for eyes that you could possibly conjure up from Generation 3. And while I do admire Bayonet's disturbing background as talked about in the past disturbing Pokemon videos, I just like the aesthetic of Sableye even more, with presenting that there may be more to it that isn't showing us. To which then we get Mega Sableye, who kept the design pretty familiar but also added a big ass gem for Sableye to use as a possessive shield, as they know that value will always protect them. And it wasn't until Generation 5 when hidden abilities were introduced, and Sableye was a lucky candidate for Prankster, which grants priority of status moves. So while Sableye doesn't have the best base stat total, it definitely has the best ability and move pool to back it up. Holding leftovers makes sure it has a slow recovery whilst toying with the opponent, using Recover for quick healing. Then you can either use Foul Play to use the opponent's attack against them, or Knock Off to make sure that the opponent has less tricks up their sleeve. There's also Taunt to force attack moves to be used, and then Will-O-Wisp to deal turn-based damage, whilst cutting that same attack in half. So as you can see, Sableye is pretty destructive, and this is all good reason for it to be considered an Uber in regards to Smogon's rules, which I hardly ever use. Mega Sableye may have Magic Bounce instead, but can now utilize more of a Carmine strategy with Dark Pulse or Shadow Ball replacing Foul Play. So despite Sableye having the status of no weakness eliminated due to the newfound existence of fairy types, it's still a destructive force in the Pokemon world. And oh great, another ghost type that has a story about it stealing spirits. Amaze bollocks. You might be enlightened to know that Sableye's diet consists of rocks and gems. No wonder sharks would rather stay in the ocean. Or Sharpedos, should I say. To prove how much of an underdog Sableye really is, it has the lowest base stat total of any Dark-type Pokemon, so maybe it should rename itself as the Ironic Pokemon. It's based off of a hoax known as the Kentucky Hopkinsville Goblin, an alien encounter reported to have shining eyes, small legs, clawed arms, and swaying hips. And that's not every day you hear of a Pokemon based off something in America, I'll tell you that now. Hoenn! The moment I saw this Pokemon, I knew that I must embrace its green goblin-like appearance. So I dressed up as a pink-eyed Link. First off, green is a favorite color of mine next to purple. Second, there's so many qualities that make up the epic proportions of Flygon's design. That slicked back hair, the slender look, and the big red lenses. And when you're trying to raise a godforsaken Trapinch that struggles to get its large jaws through the door, Flygon is an amazingly satisfying reward for enduring it. That is before the EXP share was introduced that I never used unless I really needed to, but don't want to anyway. I'm legit. Flygon can either go in as an all-out attacker whilst holding a choice band to boost its speed, or use that extra agility to help it escape danger with a U-turn. And Defog is also there to help get a clean switch for teammates. So yeah, there's not much to Flygon's strategy, really. The coolest thing about Flygon is its nickname, the elemental spirit of the desert. So it went from an antlion, to an adult antlion, to an enigma. Oh wait, yeah, it's an antlion as well. But the reason to its name is supposedly because when it flaps its wings, it sounds like it's singing. Nah, it's just autotune. Or is it layering? And yeah, as I guessed, the lenses are to protect it from the sand. But still, it's more plausible than camels, especially Camerupt. Maybe I should have named it Godo. So yet another list for us to be indulged in. Let's once again go over the overall rankings.
I still need pants. Agron!
Save a line. Gengar.
Mudawak.
So that's it for today. Stay tuned for Generation 4. Let's end! So often is the current thing that's hot. Like, is Dragon Ball Xenoverse worth your time? Is Day 1 DLC worth it?
You really call that an eclipse? I call it a waste of fucking time!